Hello, hello, everybody. We're going to do another Nakshatra Gods episode right now, Tales of the Nakshatra Gods, which is a reading from my book, Nakshatra, The Authentic Heart of Vedic Astrology. That is most certainly available on Amazon.com immediately. You can just search this title on Amazon. And you can get your very own copy to put on your refrigerator and put on your bookshelf and enjoy. And also to read to your children when they go to sleep at night, because these stories are great. So let's get into it. We are now talking about the three major Vedic gods from the more philosophical period or more philosophical school of Vedic thoughts, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. We spoke already about Brahma. So now let's get into Shiva. And let's see. Let me see what I have down here in the book. Okay, yeah. So the first thing I want you to know about Shiva is that he's quite different. First of all, you should just know nomenclature. There are names. Shiva's name is Rudra. The name Shiva is something that was awarded to him later. Initially, his name was Rudra. Let me see if I'm going to tell you this story, actually. Yeah, I'll tell you the story right now about this. But Rudra is Shiva. So what you should know is that Rudra is quite different than the rest of the gods. And because of this, actually, very often they exclude him intentionally. The other gods often exclude Rudra intentionally from their parties. So that tells you a lot already about Rudra's nakshatras. You probably want to know off the bat what nakshatras belong to Rudra. Well, first of all, there's Ardra. That's the most literally Rudra's. Ardra nakshatra. You don't really get invited to a lot of parties. You don't really a very social, easygoing party type of person. When Ardra is one of your main nakshatras. Another one is Mula. Mula belongs to the feminine half of Rudra, known as Niriti or Kali, known by various names. So Ardra and Mula, and then there's also the two Bhadrapadas, which belong to Anantashesha, the serpent, who is an avatar of Rudra. So these four nakshatras have Rudra qualities to them. And one of them is very different. Rudra is very different from the rest of the gods. And similarly, these nakshatra people with these nakshatras prominent are very different from most of the other people in their family, society, etc. They don't quite get into the same merrymaking. So actually, this is how he's quite different. Rudra, he lives in crematoriums. Most people want to live in like a golf course or a park or something. Rudra wants to live in a graveyard. Rudra wants to live in a crematorium. Most people want to have a nice house. Rudra doesn't want a house. Rudra doesn't have a house. Rudra is the only god that does not even have a house. So he lives without a roof over his head. Most people want to have nice, pretty sophisticated people all around them. Rudra surrounds himself with ghosts, ghouls, monsters. Most people want to dress in fancy clothes. Rudra dresses in tree bark and animal skin. Most people comb their hair. Rudra doesn't cut it. He just smears himself with the cremation ash, keeps his hair uncut, doesn't comb it. So in other words, he's super different. And he doesn't value the same things that the other gods value. Now, most of the other gods, they value basic sensual things. Prosperity, homes, marriages, sexuality, fortune, Rudra doesn't get into that. I say he's entirely disinterested in sensual merriment. This is another quality of these 4 nakshatras, Ardra, Mula, and Bhadrapadas. They're not particularly interested in sensual merriment, but they're much more interested in something deep. And that's the nature of Rudra. Rudra is not interested in sensual stuff because he's really enwrapped and enthralled in something that is far superior if you can tap into it. If you can't tap into it, then you're just left with nothing. This is the nature of these nakshatras. Ardra, Mula, Bhadrapadas, they are very depressing. Unless you can crack through to the core and get in touch with the internal spiritual bliss, you just feel, you will, if you're not in touch with that, you just are going to feel different than everybody else, alienated from everybody else, and left out. Like Rudra, but Rudra doesn't feel alienated, left out, etc. Rudra is busy being absorbed in his own internal happiness. So that's one of the keys for Ardra, Mula, and Bhadrapadas, is to really seek for deep things. Seeking deep things. The blessings of Rudra are quite different than the blessings of the rest of the gods. Blessings of the rest of the gods will give you a really nice wife, really nice husband, really nice kids, really nice cars, really nice money. The blessings of Rudra cause humans to lose interest in superficial pleasures and turn towards deeper, more substantial joys. So it will make people more interested in science, philosophy, religion, not like as a social type of religion, but like spirituality, mysticism, fantasy, other kind of things, alternative realities, deeper realities. Okay, so all 4 of Rudra's nakshatras, Ardra, Mula, and the 2 Bhadrapada, are marked by this disinterest in conventional life and attraction to deeper, more profound things. So let me take a break there and see what you are typing. So Sun says, Ardra people, I've noticed, are obsessed by some material thing and want to destroy themselves. If this is true, why? Shiva is supposed to be calm. Well, I don't know how you're evaluating what an Ardra person is, etc., etc. But what Ardra will do is it will actually make people uncomfortable, unsuccessful with, disinterested in material things. And they will actually have anger or destruction towards those things. Now, how you're interpreting this may be different than how they're experiencing it. They may not really be trying to destroy themselves. They may be trying to know themselves. What these nakshatras are really going to do is make a person seek for the deepest possible thing. And Shiva is supposed to be calm, but Rudra, so we'll get to the story about this. Rudra is not calm. We'll get to this story. So don't think that these nakshatras are calm because Shiva is calm. Shiva is Rudra. Rudra is the god of destruction. Thank you, Raphael. Well, let's see, where are we up to? Caroline says, my ascendant is in Ardra. Is that prominent? Yeah. Ascendant in nakshatra is always pretty prominent. Ascendant Lord, maybe. If the ascendant Lord also happens to wind up being being a very prominent planet in your chart, okay, then you may find that it's prominent. Retnama says that Hasta is considered Hanumanji's nakshatra. I don't know who you're listening to, but Hasta belongs to Savitur, not Hanuman. And Savitur is not Rudra. Savitur is basically Vishnu, but Savitur is somebody else. So don't consider Hasta in with this group of Rudras, Nakshatras. Teresa's asking about lonely moon, but this is not a session about lonely moon. But it can mean mental illness. It means mental disconnect, emotional disconnect. But that's enough about that, okay? We'll just talk about Rudra's Nakshatras today. Seventh Lord in Mula Nakshatra. You go ahead and you do your interpretations. Ardra moon along with Saturn. That's a really good one, strong one. Is Shiva a form of Rudra, or are these both his names? We're going to get into this. What's the relationship of Shiva and Rudra? Sena Sharma wants to know how you define the relationship between Parvati and Shiva. If it is not sensual, what was the deepest one? This is very interesting, and I'll tell you the story of this. Is there anger of Ardra directed into to destroy themselves? See, the thing is, like this is also like Misha is expressing. There's a lot of anger with Rudra. Rudra is the god of anger. It's tamasic. Rudra is the tamaguna adidevata. So Ardra nakshatras, Mula nakshatras, the Bhadrapada nakshatras, they're not comfortable with superficiality. They're not going to spare themselves from that either. So all the superficial conceptions of themselves, superficial manifestations of themselves, they're going to hate all that stuff too, and they're going to want to destroy it. Yeah, definitely. The ascendant nakshatra is very prominent. It's going to definitely affect the chart. What's the relationship with Rudra and Alakshmi in Mula? Mula belongs to Alakshmi, and Ardra belongs to Rudra. Those are the two Rudra nakshatras. Alakshmi is the female side of Rudra. I've seen a lot of self-destruction in these nakshatras. How to streamline them into something good and destroy it. Go ahead and destroy it. Destroy the fake stuff. Read the sutras also, not just the stories. Get the book and study the first half of the book. The sutra for, excuse me, sutra for Mula, for example, is to destroy the hunters, to hunt the hunters. And the sutra for Mula is to let the lies destroy themselves. So you have to destroy. Don't be afraid of destruction. Or a person with Mula, don't try to advise them away from being angry and destructive. Let them be angry and destructive. What's wrong with it? Help them identify the things which we should be angry with, and which should be destroyed. And teach them about the purpose of killing, for example. You kill tigers, for example, that wander into your village and start eating people. You kill a murderer. So that's the purpose of destruction, is to destroy the things which causes pain. So destruction and anger is for the purpose of love and preservation of something sacred and beautiful. So you should never try to force a person to be what they're not. A person with a Rudra nakshatra can experience joy and beauty and love by annihilating the things which are opposed to and stand in the way of that joy and beauty and love. Prakriti wants to know, can I please define what qualities qualify as tamas? Anger is one of them. But he says anger requires a lot of energy, but tamas sounds more dull. Tamas is energy, but it's destructive energy. All three, tamas, sattva, and rajas are all energy. They're all qualities of Prakriti, hence the name. They're all qualities of Prakriti. And Prakriti is energy, Shakti. It's just that energy will function in three ways. It will either function tamasically to destroy things, rajasically to create things, or sattvically to just maintain the existence of things. Okay, so I'm going to read you a little bit more. Now I'm going to get you into a story. Or I think we got it. Yeah. Rudra. So, one of the symbols associated with the Bhadrapadas, I think it's Purva, is a two-faced person. So this is because of Rudra. Rudra seems to have two very different faces. When you look at Rudra superficially, he appears terrifying and destructive. But if you look at Rudra deeper, he appears peaceful and benevolent. This is the trick. This is the thing that you got to understand if you are a person with Rudra Nakshatras, or if you're trying to coexist with people with Rudra Nakshatras or help them. You need to understand that they have two sides. That things have that life has two sides. Like we just described, we kill the murderer to protect the innocent. We destroy the lie to protect the truth. We destroy something ugly to preserve and enhance and give more space to the thing which is beautiful. So if you look at it from one side, you're going to see a lot of destruction. But if you look at it from the other side, you're going to see a lot of preservation. So that's the nature of Rudra. If you look at Rudra from one way, he looks like a classic devil. Red-skinned, horns, ripping things to fire. If you look at Rudra from another way, he looks like a classic saint. So remember, make sure you bear that in mind with trying to understand how these nakshatras function. Don't try to make your saints all clean and fluffy and with little feathery wings. Let your saints have teeth and horns. Let your beauty have some grit. Don't be scared of the grit. Don't be scared of the anger. All right, so Rudra himself seems to have two very different faces. Seen from the superficial perspective, he appears terrifying and destructive. Same thing with these nakshatras. But if you can see from the deeper perspective, you will see that Rudra is peaceful and benevolent. Let me tell you the story of how Rudra was born. Now, Rudra is born. Shiva is an eternal Tamagun Adidevata. So Shiva is not going to be born, but these entities have avatars and where they come into the existence. They come into our realm of existence, and that's what we mean by their birth. Now, this is according to the Bhagavad Purana. It's an excellent telling of the appearance or birth of Shiva. So he first appeared in the world as a ferocious, howling purple, androgyne child, personifying the anger and frustration that Brahma experienced in his initial failed attempts at creation. Brahma had tried to contain his anger between his eyebrows, but ultimately failed, and it leapt forth from his forehead in the form of Rudra. So it was really early in the universe, and Brahma realized that he needed to make other living beings to help him create the universe. So he labored really hard to make these four super qualified people. That's Sanat and Sanat Kumar, all those Kumars, the four Kumars, the Chatusanas. So as soon as he made them, he said to them, okay, let's get to work. Let's make children and let's make stuff. And they said, sorry, we're not interested. we want to find out about Vishnu. We want to find out about the reality that's beyond this one. And Brahma started to get really frustrated because he just worked so hard on creating these beings that would help him. It's like classic. When you have your kids and your kids don't listen to you, you get really angry. So Brahma had his kids. He made these 4 beings, and the first thing they did was disobey him. So he started to get so angry, yet he also highly approved of their reasoning. Oh, they want to know Vishnu. They don't want to get absorbed in tinkering with temporary things. They want to know something eternal. So on one hand, he thought that they were good, but on the other hand, he was so frustrated. So he was trying to contain his anger. And when you get angry, your face scrunches up like this. And so Brahma had a buildup of anger here. And he was trying to hold it in, but actually it just built up, and then he said, I got to get rid of this. And he pulled it out of his head and threw it on the ground. And guess what it was? So when it came out of his head and came onto the ground, his anger had the form of this purple baby who was androgynous. Okay? So androgynous means andro and gynous. So it was both male and female. And it was purple. It was this intense color. And it was howling. It was screaming. It was full of anger. So then Brahma looked at it and he said, well, look, I just made another creature. Let's try to do something with this. So some things happened actually. I'm not telling the story completely. So, the howling baby looked at Brahma and said, who am I? And Brahma said, you're the howler. You're the crier. Because you're crying so much. So he called him the crier. And that's what Rudra means. Rudra means the one who howls. So he said, your name is Rudra. The wailer. A howler. And then Rudra said, what am I supposed to do? And he said, well, you could help me. Brahma said, well, you could help me make the universe. So Rudra said, oh, okay. So Brahma said, okay, great. So you should split. You're male and female together, so split into separate. Make the male and female forms separated and make 11 copies of yourself. And then you guys can make babies. And then we'll populate the universe with creatures, and then we can get going with our work. So Rudra said, okay, so tatastu, that sounds good. Let's do it. Then all of a sudden, within a couple of days or whatever, I don't know how time was measured, all of a sudden, the universe is filled with all these really angry monsters. Because Rudra had babies. Rudra is this howling personification of anger. And they were... Anger by its nature is destructive. Anger is a reaction to something that you do not want. So anger is destructive because it wants to destroy the thing that it doesn't want. So all these beings created from anger, created from Brahma's anger, they're full of destructiveness. So it kind of, Brahma's plan backfired. He wanted a bunch of people in the universe to help him create, but he got a bunch of people in the universe that were threatening to rip it apart. So Brahma then went to Rudra and said, okay, look, can you please control yourself? I understand that you're full of anger, but anger needs to be controlled. He said it's useful at the right time and place, but if you don't control your anger, you'll just destroy everything, including the good stuff. This is also important for people with Rudra Nakshatras. To focus the anger. You have to figure out, what do I not like? Not just hate everything, not just hate yourself included. What about me do I not like? Let's destroy that. What in the world do I not like? Let's destroy that. Let's not destroy everything. So that was Brahma's advice to Rudra, which is the perfect advice to anybody who's born with Rudra's qualities by virtue of being under his nakshatras. Learn to control and direct your anger to the right thing. So Rudra says, how can I? I'm the very personification of your anger. How can I become peaceful? And Brahma said, you can learn how to control your feelings. And Rudra says, how could that be possible? And Brahma said, through this discipline called yoga. And then Brahma taught Rudra the discipline of yoga, which is basically to contemplate on Vishnu, to meditate upon Vishnu, which Vishnu is the essence of one's being. So Brahma advised Shiva, try to meditate on the essence of who you really are, of what and who you really are. So do what I did, because Brahma did this. Brahma said, I sat still and I tried to calm my mind down by breathing carefully and contemplate on who and what I really was. And then all of a sudden, everything became clear to me. So you try that. So then Rudra went up to the top of a mountain by himself and he perfected the yoga. That's why Rudra is considered to be the head of almost every yogic school, because he was the first accomplished yogi besides Brahma. But he's more dramatic in how amazing it is that he mastered yoga. So he developed it more fully, because he's full of anger. He's a destructive, angry being, but he manages to conquer that and control his mind, control his emotions, and become peaceful, self-controlled. So after accomplishing this, he came down from the mountain and came back to see Brahma. Brahma was thrilled, and he said, now you are Shiva. First I named you Rudra. Now I name you Shiva. Because Shiva means calm. Shiva means benevolent, peaceful. So when Rudra learned how to control his anger, he became Shiva. The same way when people with the Ardra Nakshatra, the Mula Nakshatra, the Bhadrapada Nakshatras learn how to focus their anger and their dissatisfaction on the actual things that are bothering them or that they feel are wrong, they will become happy and peaceful and benevolent and good and contribute to their families and to themselves, to their own lives and to the world. But if they don't focus the anger and the dissatisfaction, it will spill onto everything. And then they just become destructive of everything. So that's the ideal for people born under Rudra's Nakshatras, to try to follow his example and to learn how to direct their anger and focus it. Let's see if you got any questions. Let's see what we got. How does one choose a mantra to work with Ardra and Mula? I don't know. You choose a mantra from a guru. You need a guru to point you at a good mantra. But if you just take the basic advice of Brahma, you just take a name of Vishnu and contemplate it. So Rajas is telling Tamas to meditate on Sattva. Yeah, very good. Can you please explain how to determine the behavior of different planets sitting in different nakshatras, how the system works? You have to learn the system of how you interpret planets anywhere in science, and then you can work with it in nakshatras. I'm not so much under the weather, but my throat is wrecked from having been screaming for the whole week. If you are on my Facebook page, you know what I'm talking about. Can you tell the relationship between Mrigashirsh and Ardra regarding looking for Brahma's head? I told that already last week, or the last 2 times ago. So look at the previous video on Tales of the Nakshatra Gods. Okay, I think I'm answering most of these questions already. How is Rudra related to the Bhadrapadas? I'll explain that now. Janvi, if they are so destructive in nature, then how are these nakshatras considered spiritual? I guess you just have the wrong idea of spiritual. Like spiritual means fluffy or la or quiet. They're very moksha oriented nakshatras because they want release from this crap that's bothering them and limiting them and threatening them and is bad and negative. They're fed up and sick of all this lies. That's how they're spiritual. They want to destroy. What do you think? What do you think? Sannyas is like a bed of roses or something? Moksha is death. Moksha is destruction. Sannyas is you actually are dead by law. You are going to kill yourself. You kill, you cut, you renounce, you give up everything. That's Ardra energy. That's Rudra energy. It's just, I'm sick and tired of this stuff. Get rid of it. I don't want any more cars. I don't want any more money. I want happiness. Where is it? That's Ardra Rudra. I want truth. That's why it's very connected with Gyanis. Ardra. They're really looking for knowledge. Truth. Yeah, these nakshatras are great for anybody. These nakshatras, Ardra, Mula, Bhadrapadas, are not good for people just, going with the flow and getting along and having parties and stuff. But these nakshatras are great for people that are not going to accept the face value of things, that are going to go deeper into things, that are going to look for something worthwhile or some truth, something real amidst lies. Yeah, so they're going to look for, so these day and age, you might find a lot of scientifically minded people. Like Einstein has an Ardra ascendant, I think, or maybe an Ardra moon. So, I think he's got a Bhadrapada or something, but Einstein is a very Ardra type of person. Most of the great acharyas in India have some relationship to Ardra. Because these people are looking for something deep. Yeah, I guess I got to put on the glasses. Glasses are weird. Wow. Okay, so let's get back to this. You want to know about Bhadrapada? Somebody wanted to know. So amongst all the children and expansions of Rudra and Rudrani, Rudrani is a basic catch-all phrase for all the 11. Rudra is a good catch-all phrase for all the 11 expansions on the male side. And Rudrani are all the 11 expansions of Rudra on the female side. So Kali, Durga, any Dhumavati, they're all Rudranis. Okay, so you got basically Rudra himself is male and female combined. Rudra and Rudrani combined. And he splits, and then they each make 11 forms. And then they made all kinds of children. Out of all of them, the most important is a Naga or a dragon named Anantashesh. This Anantashesh is an avatar or a form of Rudra. And Anantashesh is the serpent. That's the deity of both of the Bhadrapadas. Ajaikapad and Ahirpudnya are the two faces, one fiery, one watery, one brutal and harsh, and the other quiet and reserved and peaceful. So in the two Bhadrapadas, you see the two faces of Shiva. The Purva Bhadrapada is more the angry Rudra who's hard and burning things. And the Uttara Bhadrapada is the quiet, peaceful Shiva who's just deep and not in contact with the external world, really absorbed within himself. Both the deity of both is Anantashesh, who's Shiva's expansion. So this Anantashesh renounced his throne. He's the king of all the Nagas. The ultimate king of all the Nagas is Anantashesh. And Nagas live in great luxury with great wealth. But this particular Naga dragon did not care for this stuff at all. And he went over instead to the Bhadrapadas. He left the Nagas realm, which is, oh my God, Ashlesha. He left Ashlesha and went over to Purva Bhadrapada. Purva Bhadrapada, what's the symbol? What's the symbol for Purva Bhadrapada? It's a crematorium. It's a funeral pyre, crematorium altar. So this is where Rudra lives. He would instead of living in the Bila Swarga, the subterranean heavens in Ashlesha, with so much attachment, Ashlesha, Anantashesh just said, forget this. I'm not into this stuff. This stuff doesn't fulfill me. And he got away from that stuff, and he went over to the crematorium, which is the place of death, right? But in the death, in the killing of the material things, he's able to get rid of all those things and not be distracted. So Anantashesh, this shows that Anantashesh, like Rudra himself, is entirely disinterested in temporary wealth and interested only in what is real, eternal, and truly auspicious, and that's what Bhadrapada means. Bhadrapada means something that is really auspicious. Truly auspicious, the meaning of auspiciousness. Not the external form of auspiciousness, but the true meaning of auspiciousness is Bhadrapada. So that's the thing that Rudra is looking for, the true auspiciousness, and is more than happy to destroy all the fake auspiciousness or give it up. Also, exactly like Rudra himself, Anantashesh manifests two distinct forms in the two Bhadrapada nakshatras. One is ferociously destructive, and the other is peacefully beneficent. In Purva Bhadrapada, Anantashesh manifests as Ajaikapat. The Ajaikapat is a snake, the divine snake, Aja Ekapat. But Ajaikapat is a ferocious fire-breathing dragon who reduces the universe to ash. This is the role that Ajaikapat plays. He's the form of Shiva. He's a form of Rudra, so he's going to help in the destruction of things. He's a dragon. He's got fire breath, so he destroys the universe in fire. That's the nature of Purva Bhadrapada, the first face of Shiva. The second face is Uttara Bhadrapada. He manifests as Ahirbudnya. Ahirbudnya is a peaceful, water-dwelling dragon who holds up the world and keeps it intact. So you see these two faces. Now, it does mean that Uttara Bhadrapada is quieter than Purva Bhadrapada. But it doesn't mean that one is easy and the other is difficult. Both of these nakshatras, both of the Bhadrapadas are difficult for socializing, difficult for conventional life. But the Uttara one is more quiet about it, so it's going to be more introspective or emo or in solitude. And the Purva Bhadrapada is more loud about it. It's going to get into more conflicts. It's going to have more of an outgoing nature. Ajaikapat, who is often depicted as storm clouds, acts like a hurricane or inferno, passionately and ferociously tearing through non-eternal experiences in an intense search for the meaning of true wealth. Right? It's a dragon. Anantashesh is a dragon, so he's interested in wealth. But he left Ashlesha to come to the crematorium grounds because he's interested in true wealth. But he's going to burn stuff at this altar. That's what the sutra is all about for the Purva Bhadrapada, is amassing things to burn them. So he's going to rip through, he's going to tear through, just like Ajayapad rips through the universe and burns it to shreds. He's going to tear the universe to shreds in order to see what's left over. So that's Ajayapad. Ajayapad is like storm clouds and hurricanes and raging infernos, really destructive storms. Ahirbudnya is usually depicted as rain clouds. Is usually quite calm and simply shows no interest in temporary ephemeral things. Being a Rudra, Ahirbudnya can also display ferocious anger at times, but his fundamental character is detached, distant, and calm. So there's quite a practical difference between the two Bhadrapadas. Though the essence of them is the same. The essence of the two Bhadrapadas is that it doesn't feel that true wealth and happiness can be found in the normal world. And it's going to seek, hopefully, it can seek for true happiness and wealth in some other world, in some abnormal world. But the Purva Bhadrapada and Uttara Bhadrapada, they have like different personalities about it. The Uttara Bhadrapada tends to be more like water, which is like quiet and alone. And the Purva Bhadrapada tends to be more like fire, which is like intense. Now, I'm going to get into telling you the story of Rudra and Sati. Because one of the questions was about that. What's the relationship between Parvati and Shiva, or Rudra and Sati? So I'm going to get into telling you this story. It's super interesting. But I'm not sure if I'll do it today or save it for the next week. Because it's a very important story, and it's kind of long, and we need to discuss it in full. So what I think I'll do right now is see what other comments you have so far. Let's see. Teresa, it wants to know what Mula means in Sagittarius in the 5th house. Well, you want to tell us what planet you have in Mula in the 5th house. That's an important thing. Prakriti says, my Mercury is in Ardra and my Jupiter is in Purva Bhadrapada. So would you suggest I do intense penance to know the truth? Well, it's just the Mercury is intellectual and Jupiter is connected to gods and things. So you have them both in spiritual places. So your life is not, you're not going to achieve what you're actually looking for without some kind of sadhana. You need some sort of spiritual practice. It's super important that you do that. And because it's Mercury and Jupiter, it's probably going to be a Vaishnav sadhana. Feminine aspect of Mula, this will come up when we talk about it. Raphael says, I have these nakshatras, but only in Lahiri. That's basically the only way I do it, so that sounds fine. Did I already talk about Mula? I got 2 videos on Mula, so you can just search. You can Google Vic Dicara Mula, and you'll find those 2 videos. Jupiter and Uttara Bhadrapada is very deeply philosophical, basically. You guys are asking a lot of specific questions, but one really important thing that you need to know about specific questions is you can get maybe one bit of information from it, but the chart is like a bunch of wires. A birth chart is like a bunch of wires that are connected to each other. When you just pull out one wire and say, what's this mean? I can tell you what it means, but I'm not so sure how relevant it's going to be or how accurate it's going to be or anything, because you're just talking about that one wire that's really supposed to be connected to a whole bunch of other things. Yeah, Vaishnav sadhana. You need some practice of some mantra that's related to Vishnu. Prakriti. Thank you, SC. Let's see. How come Ashlesha is not related to Shiva? I thought Nagas and Ashlesha and Bhadrapads belonged to the same clan and got separated after the fights between their mother and aunt about the horse tail color. It's just that there is a relationship between Bhadrapadas and Ashlesha because they're both Nagas. But the deity of the Bhadrapadas is Rudra Avatar. Okay? And the Naga who left Ashlesha because he disliked it. He disliked the things that go on there. So they're not similar nakshatras. They're dissimilar nakshatras. The Bhadrapadas and Ashlesha are dissimilar nakshatras. But there's going to be a common thread of intensity. So there's a connection between the Bhadrapadas and Ashlesha. There's a connection between the Bhadrapadas and Ardra and Mula. Because it's Shiva, it's Rudra and Rudrani, Ardra and Mula who have manifest the deity of the Bhadrapadas. And the deity of the Bhadrapadas is a Naga, so it's related to the Ashlesha. But the relationship to Ashlesha is that this Naga doesn't like Ashlesha. And the relationship to Ardra Mula is that it's basically the same. It's the same character as Ardra and Mula. Bhavana Suresh, Stephen, I don't know if I have a multi-level astrology certification course that sounds a little bit overly fancy for my stuff, but you can go to vicdicara.com and click on courses and see what I offer. vicdicara.com/courses should get you to the different courses that I offer. Is the relationship between Mula and Prajapati? Not much. Vikram says he read 26 stars, 26 gods. It's 27. The question I have is that how do I infer info from them with various parents and various nakshatras? That answer is you learn about astrology. So you need to just learn how to mix symbols. If you get this new book that I did, which is this one, I include more talk in there about the basic effects of planets in the nakshatras that can get you started. Let's see if we got one or two more interesting things to talk about. What about Maruts? Rudra's Maruts. Is Maruts Martians? Maruts are just storms. But Maruts are minor deities. They don't have a nakshatra. Maruts are a minor manifestation of Shiva. in the story of Nagas who didn't join in the white hair to help their mothers, bet indicative of Bhadrapadas, right? Those are the guys who left, and they're headed by Anantashesha. So they dislike all this stuff, like envy and cheating and all this stuff. They hate it. So after going into Nagaloka is where the split between the Nagas happened. Yes. I'm happy that you guys are able to like visualize the story and see it in this much detail. Okay. Right. Although Uttar Bhadrapada is relatively calmer, the two Bhadrapadas, is it still a fierce nakshatra? It's fierce, but it's got an introversion. It's got an introvertedness to its fierceness. Okay, guys. I'm going to get on with the rest of the day. So thank you for thank you for keeping me company for this hour, and I'll see you for more stuff here on my YouTube channel. Thank you.